Love Island is dropping more and more episodes, and as they do, I'm able to dive even deeper into relationship dynamics. And today, I'm going to be talking about what emotional immaturity looks like, control and manipulation in relationships. I'm also going to be diving into what repair looks like in relationships. But even more than all of this, I'm going to show you what it means when someone's inner world and outer world do not match each other. And I'll show you how to recognize that disconnect in others. And this will change the way you see people and empower you to understand relationships on a deeper level. And by the end of this video, I'm going to walk you through a subtle moment where Ace reveals his true intentions, something almost no one is talking about, but everyone should be. Hi, I'm Dr. Pam, therapist and relationship counselor, and I am so passionate about helping all of you grow and create deeper, more meaningful connections. And if you want more of that, I hope you subscribe so that we can stay connected. So let's just dive right in.
So there's a reason why I'm so emotionally mature.
Huda sees herself as emotionally mature, but is she?
You're always like, if I'm standing here, how do you usually hold me, Jeremiah?
Okay, but it don't
No, look at me right now. How do you usually hold me?
There are two important things to explore here. First, emotional immaturity, and second, why Huda sees herself as emotionally mature while acting in ways that don't reflect that. Let's break it down step by step. So we know Huda told Jeremiah she's a mom, and I'll show you also how she sometimes uses telling others that she's a mom as a form of manipulation. But for now, let's walk through the game that took place right after Huda told Jeremiah that she has a daughter.
Yeah, Jeremiah!
How we manage our emotions is what really defines emotional maturity. Huda is clearly struggling with insecurity. I talked about that in my last video when she sat in full view of Jeremiah while he was having a conversation with Sierra. And here we see it again. This is actually a great example of the disconnect between someone's inner world and outer world. Huda tells Jeremiah she's emotionally mature, and that's her inner world. What she believes or wants to believe about herself, but her outer world, the way she behaves, especially when she feels threatened, tells a very different story. When someone's words and actions don't match, it doesn't mean they're lying. It often means they haven't yet developed the self-awareness or emotional tools to live out what they believe about themselves. But this disconnect is important for you to be able to see in another person. We tend to believe what a person tells us. Huda sounded very convincing when she said she was emotionally mature, but we see otherwise.
Fourth will be Jeremiah.
It's okay. It's just a game. It's okay.
Of course, Amaya picks Jeremiah to be her fourth base. Do you not see like what me and Jeremiah have? Like, I just think that was the dumbest shit she could have.
Amaya is playing the game just like everyone else. Even Huda's friends try to remind her of that, but she can't see it. The only thing that she sees is a threat. When she says Amaya did a dumb thing by choosing Jeremiah, she's using childlike language, which also shows emotional immaturity. You know, when she says dumb. She doesn't pause to consider that Amaya is new to the island and simply following how the game works. Instead of handling the uncertainty that comes with the early stages of a relationship, Huda lashes out and turns against anyone that she sees as a threat to her connection or sense of self.
Let's go, Jeremiah!
There's a lot happening in this short moment. First, Ace is doing what he does so well, stirring the pot and trying to pull attention to himself. By cheering Jeremiah on to kiss Amaya, he's intentionally adding fuel to the fire. He's had issues with Huda and Jeremiah since day one and has repeatedly tried to shake up their relationship. Second, Jeremiah is clearly torn. He looks uncomfortable. He doesn't want to upset Huda, who's making it obvious that she's not okay with the situation. But at the same time, he doesn't want to be the guy who refuses to play and go along and look bad in front of everyone else. And then there's Huda, whose reaction pulls all the attention onto her. Instead of letting the game be lighthearted and fun, she shifts the energy with her emotional intensity. It becomes less about the game and more about her feelings, making it unfair for others who are just trying to enjoy the moment. And then the kiss. Giving the middle finger is clearly a sign of emotional immaturity. Now, that does not mean that if you give someone the middle finger, it means you're emotionally mature. Not at all. It is the context here that matters, and the context is the bigger picture. She feels threatened and is reacting to that. People might describe her as emotional, but what we're really seeing here is emotional fragility. She's very fragile.
I'm not mad at Jeremiah. I want to start there. It is a challenge. He handled that well. But I think that bitch is messy. I couldn't even look at her.
This is what I will say, just to be devil's advocate, is that, you know, at the end of the day, remember, we're still exploring, and you guys say you're open.
Huda reacts quickly and harshly toward Amaya, and she's openly sharing those reactions with the other girls, which again shows emotional immaturity, because instead of recognizing that Amaya is simply playing the game like everyone else, Huda turns against her and spreads that negativity in a way that feels very mean girl, almost middle school-like. Meanwhile, Chelley steps in as the voice of emotional maturity. She tries to gently remind Huda that the whole point of being on Love Island, especially in the beginning, is to stay open and explore different connections. But let's watch how Huda reacts to her.
Listen, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sierra, this is the first time you're about to hear this. Everyone else knows this. But I'm a mom.
Amazing.
And I just shared this with Jeremiah yesterday. Like, it was the hardest thing for me to do. I feel like today proved to me that you're like one of our sisters.
When Huda says to Chelley, I understand what you're saying, but then she immediately dismisses it and turns to Sierra. It's clear that she doesn't actually understand. Then, out of nowhere, she brings up the fact that she's a mom and that she had just shared that with Jeremiah the day before. Sharing this with Sierra in that moment doesn't follow any logical thread in the conversation, and it seems to be a way of gaining sympathy, which is emotionally manipulative. She also calls Sierra a sister, which feels like another attempt to pull people to her side and frame herself as the one who deserves loyalty. Now, I want to be clear. This is not about attacking Huda. What we're seeing here is someone who has likely had little, if any, awareness of how her behavior comes across. And there are two truths here that we can hold space for at the same time. Huda has likely been through something in her life that has deeply impacted her, and she clearly has some important growth work to do. But because someone has been through something in their life, whether it's trauma, which is likely the case here, that does not mean that we have to endure manipulative or hurtful behavior just because someone has their own growth work to do.
You have kissed somebody else. I hated it. Like, I hated it. When I really like somebody, like, I don't play about what's mine. Like, what's mine is mine and don't touch it. I can already tell that the bitch doesn't compare to me. Do I know her? No. Am I upset that she picked him for number one? Yes.
Huda clearly pulled the girls in for sympathy, and they gave it to her. But that statement, what's mine is mine, and don't effing touch it, is deeply disturbing. Even in a committed relationship, that kind of thinking is controlling and possessive. You know, I can't help but think that if a man said what's mine is mine and don't effing touch it, it would be seen as a huge red flag, and rightfully so. The same standard should apply when a woman expresses that kind of mindset. No one should feel ownership over another person, ever. Huda also says that Amaya doesn't compare to her, but if she truly believed that, she would not feel threatened. That's the disconnect between her inner world, how she wants to see herself as confident and secure, and her outer world, her behavior, which shows anger, insecurity, and emotional intensity. This kind of disconnect means that Huda has unexamined emotional wounds, and unless those are addressed, The behavior that she shows will keep repeating even when the circumstances change, meaning if she were in a different relationship.
I think she's messy. I don't like her. I just already don't like her. I don't like her. I don't think she's nice. I think that she has ulterior motives.
Huda says that Amaya is messy, not nice, and has ulterior motives. This is a textbook example of projection. When someone speaks so strongly about another person that they barely know, it often shows more about themselves than the other person. Huda has blind spots around her own behavior, so she projects those blind spots onto Amaya. The truth is, Huda is the one showing that she's messy in her behavior, not always being kind, and behaves with ulterior motives, just like when she told Sierra that she's a mom. In that moment, her real motive was to gain sympathy and pull the girls to her side against Amaya. One of the biggest challenges with emotional immature people is how they handle conflict. So let's take a look at how Huda and Jeremiah navigate a moment of tension. So we know that the guys got in Jeremiah's head, and Huda noticed that something was wrong with Jeremiah, and she really persists in wanting him to tell her what's wrong. And when he finally does, this happens.
All right, relax.
Nah, the fact that you act that way towards your friends, this is why I don't want to tell them nothing.
Okay, bring it down.
When I'm talking to you, I should be the one you confide in. I should be the one that's there for you. We're having a best friend.
I wasn't finna.
Her emotional intensity is overwhelming. She does not give him space to speak or explain, and it's clear he feels embarrassed being spoken to like that in front of the other islanders. What stands out here is that Huda doesn't show any curiosity about what Jeremiah feels or what he's actually thinking. Instead, she attacks him for something others said. And ironically, she's the one who pressured him into opening up in the first place. But the moment he does, she makes it unsafe for him to be honest. This reaction says a lot about her emotional immaturity. She couldn't tolerate the discomfort of not knowing, so she forced a conversation, not to understand, but to soothe her own anxiety. And then she punished him for what he shared. She says she wants him to talk to her, but this kind of reaction only teaches him that honesty comes with consequences. When you are vulnerable, you need to feel safe. And Jeremiah did feel vulnerable when he shared what the guys told him in that moment, because he was struggling with loyalty to both the guys and Huda. But when someone opens up and is met with blame or intensity, they shut down. Vulnerability isn't just about sharing feelings. It's about knowing the person on the other side will make it safe for them. And without that, honesty becomes a risk and it derails connection.
And you're always like, if I'm standing here, how do you usually hold me, Jeremiah?
Okay, but it don't.
No, look at me right now. How do you usually hold me, Jeremiah?
I'm not gonna hold you the same way every time. The fact that you can't sit next to me for a minute.
Jeremiah.
When Huda says, Jeremiah, look at me right now, it comes across as demanding and controlling. So let's talk about what to do if you ever find yourself on the receiving end of this kind of emotional intensity. The most important thing that you can do is disengage, and not out of anger, but out of self-respect. And I know that that is not an easy thing to do when someone is coming at you with so much emotional intensity, but continuing to engage sends the unspoken message that their behavior is acceptable to you. And disengaging doesn't have to be harsh. In fact, it's more effective when it's done calmly and with confidence. You might say something like, I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now. Let's take a break and come back to this in a couple of hours. Now, it's true, someone with anxiety like Huda likely will not respond well to this. It could escalate them in that moment, but that doesn't mean you should avoid setting that boundary. Because when you create that boundary, it means they have their own work to do, specifically learning how to self-regulate and contain their own emotions enough to have a respectful, non-attacking conversation. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotions, and learning how to calmly step away is one of the most respectful things you can do for yourself and for your relationship. Okay, let's talk about Ace and Amaya. Oh boy, Ace just told Amaya that he wants both of them to continue to explore other people, even though he chose her, and then he says this.
And I also do want to let you know, like, I'm a extremely slow burner when it comes to, like, affection. You know, I'm not super touchy or, like, super, like, you know, kissing outside of the challenges, you know what I mean? Unless, like, I'm really feeling it and I'm really intimate with you. Or even cuddling, you know what I mean? Especially if it's my first night getting to know you.
You notice how Ace speaks very differently with Amaya than he does with Chelley. In a previous video, I talked about how Ace seemed to enjoy pursuing Chelley, but with Amaya, he shifts into a more controlling stance. He's not inviting connection. He's laying down the ground rules. This moment could have been handled so differently. Instead of dictating, he could have approached it with curiosity, asking Amaya how she feels about sharing a bed, or whether she's comfortable with physical closeness on the first night. He avoids vulnerability at all costs. Vulnerability is about letting someone see the real you, even when it feels uncomfortable. So, for example, Ace could have said, I'm feeling a little nervous about jumping into a physical closeness too quickly, but I'm also curious about you and what you see and where this goes for the two of us. That kind of honesty opens the door to trust, and that's where real connection begins, rather than setting a tone of control. So after Ace lays down all these ground rules, Amaya shares that she is hurt and she's worried that Ace has player vibes. They have another conversation, and then this happens.
Being so over emotional like that, like my own personal nickname.
Yeah.
Or babe.
Oh. Even babe is like a lot for me too. And I noticed you like to say that a lot.
Oh my God.
It
so
is.
you want me to stop calling you babe? Damn.
Yeah, like that's, yeah.
I'm about to walk away for real, because you probably pissed me off.
It seems like Amaya does tend to move quickly in relationships, while Ace appears to need a strong sense of control. So when he tells her to slow down, it's not just about pacing, it's also showing something deeper. What he's really saying is, I am uncomfortable with intimacy when I am not the one in control of how it unfolds. This isn't just about setting boundaries, it's about managing his own discomfort with vulnerability. And for some people, moving slowly is about safety, but for others, it can also be a way to avoid feeling emotionally exposed unless they're the ones directing the closeness.
I want us to be able to communicate without you, like, you know, feeling some type of way. The names, the touchy, like
Okay, well, touch me where?
You're very quick to respond. You know that?
When he says, I want to be able to communicate without you feeling some type of way about it, what he's really saying is, I want to say what I need to say, and I don't want you to have an emotional reaction. Just accept it. He criticizes her for responding quickly, but he doesn't seem to recognize that he's trying to dictate exactly how their relationship should unfold. His calm tone isn't about creating safety or connection. It's about maintaining control over the conversation and the emotional dynamic. I'm going to tell you what I think Ace is up to, but let me show you one more clip. Amaya says that she will call Ace by his name and agree to all of his conditions, which, by the way, why would you agree to that? These are huge red flags. Just walk away.
I'll call you by your name. Okay, that's fine. We'll talk, babe. Oh, sir. Ace. I don't know what is going on.
She tries to be playful when she accidentally calls him babe, but he's clearly angry. Angry and not in control. And that's what really bothers him. When she says, I don't know what the F is going on here, here's what I think is actually going on. That whole scene, Ace played out for Chelley. He latched onto Amaya not out of genuine fun or interest, but to make Chelley jealous. He's using Amaya. That's what's really going on. Just look at his face right after the passionate kiss with Amaya. He immediately looks over at Chelley, and you can see it all over his expression. That kiss was a calculated move to get a reaction from Chelley.
Like, you still a mystery in a way.
You want me to show all my cards at once.
What do you mean? I don't know what cards is there to
I
show.
want me to tell you the check by list, how to date ace.
And then do you think I'm really about to sit there and be like, yep, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This.
So, a checklist on how to date Ace. It's really just a checklist for how he can stay in control. Chelley is not having it, and yet she still engages with the game with him. It'll be interesting to see where these two end up, but I don't predict good things will happen. Okay, that's a wrap. In my next video, I'm going to break down red flags in Ace's behavior towards Chelley. So many more red flags, showing you how charm and insecurity can be easily mistaken for connection. And I'm also going to show you the emotional burden Huda places on Jeremiah, and so much more. I have so deeply appreciated how many of you have shared how these videos help you understand relationships on a deeper level and give you practical steps to navigate your relationships. And that is exactly why I create them. So if you want more of this, go ahead and subscribe so we can stay connected, because it is the best way to keep getting insights that support you. And if you found today's tips helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit. See you next time.